Miss me? I'm sure some of you have. Welcome back, everyone, to the Spacey Tropics Review channel, where I try to review just a little bit of everything. I know I've been gone for some time now, and I also know I promised you a 3-part miniseries for this M1 iPad Pro. But some things have happened over the past few months, all good things, but nonetheless have come into my life and made me start working up. So I decided that now I'm going to go ahead and take this 3-part miniseries and drop it down to a 2-part series. The first video I already did, and this second video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about the cons first. And the reason why I want to do that is because, well, people just need to know. Is this a good device to be my main device or not? And the answer is yes and no. Now, if your major, and this is for the college students, this video is dedicated to college kids. If your major is very intensive, like scientific, mathematic, engineering, things of that sort, you need dedicated software like ComSol, MATLAB, Patran, Nastran, CATIA, SolidWorks, you name it. This is not the main device for you. You definitely want a laptop. You definitely 100% want a laptop. But where this device shines as a main device would be those degrees that are research paper intensive. You need to write a thesis. You need to do a lot of PowerPoint projects and Excel work and things of that nature, maybe even video and photo editing. The M1 iPad Pro is definitely very good at that. But there's also another device that's far cheaper than this that is also good at that, which is the M1 MacBook Air. And that's where the first con comes in when it comes to differentiating between this and the MacBook Air. Its price. $999 for the base model MacBook Air. This guy is $1099. That's already $100 over. I'll get into some pricing when I talk about configurations a little bit later, so let's keep moving on. Now, I know I may have contradicted some things that I've said in the past about the M1 iPad Pro, and I know I really liked it in the past, but ever since the 14-inch MacBook Pro came out, and I have it now, it's taken up most of my workload, and it's doing it unbelievably fast. Now, let's talk about battery life. Battery life for me is a con too, especially when comparing it to the M1 MacBook Air and M1 MacBook Pro, the both 13-inch models. Honestly, they saw increases of 17 to even 20 hours of battery life in general after M1 was inserted in them. I personally thought after M1 was inserted into the iPad Pro, especially the one I have, which is a 12.9-inch model, that we were going to see significant battery gains there too. Okay, maybe not significant, but at least up it from the normal 10 hours to maybe 13, 14 hours base. Cool. Nope, still 10 hours. And it's just not good, especially if you're doing heavy intensive stuff like stuff on LumaFusion or any type of photo editing, etc. for extended periods of time. Plug in the Apple Magic Keyboard, and with the backlight feature on that, it doesn't help the battery situation anymore. MacBooks came with low power mode. At the time that I had this, low power mode wasn't available for iPads up until now. Not sure where it came from on iPad OS 15.2 or 3, but it's here. I haven't used it yet, so I can't really give you any data on it because I only just knew about it as of recent. But I'm not counting on it to do anything significant, maybe an hour extra. Personally, when you get an iPad Pro, especially the M1 iPad Pro, walk around with your charger or a portable battery bank, kind of like this. This one is from Aukey. It has a Type-C port and it has a USB-A, both of them fast charging. Anyways, let's stop being so negative and let's go ahead and talk about ideas revolving around this being a main device, especially for those that have a degree for the next 2 or 4 years to worry about. If your degree revolves, again, like I said previously, around a lot of research paper writing, you have a thesis, you have lots of notes to take, and I mean a heck ton of notes to take. You got photo editing to do, you have some video editing to do, all of these little things. Well, video editing is not a little thing, it's not a little feat. But nonetheless, all of these things bundled into one, yes, the M1 iPad Pro can definitely handle it. Personally speaking, I love the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro that I have. I love the screen real estate that I get, especially when it comes to having a PDF of something on one side and having my notes on the other. I can just write my notes. If I need to copy and paste anything, the PDF from the PDF, it's right there, and I love it. I love the seamless interaction with it, especially with the split view. It's just perfect. All right, so you've decided you're definitely getting the M1 iPad Pro, and you want to know what config should I get. Let's start off with what I got. I have the silver 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro with 8 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. This thing ain't cheap. Let me start off there. And that does not include the cost of the Apple Pencil 2, the Apple Magic Keyboard, and AppleCare. AppleCare, yes. You're walking around campus, you're walking around everywhere, you're taking this thing with you. Just get the AppleCare to be safe. Just my opinion. Now I know with the price and everything, it has some new features like the mini LED and 120 Hz. Well, it had 120 Hz display for a while, but has mini LED, 120 Hz display, has to charge your Apple Pencil, has to play super loud music through the speakers. I love the speakers. But nonetheless, that price is really high. Again, especially comparing it to a MacBook Air, that price is super duper high. And personally, I do not advise going over 512 gigs of storage. You really don't need it. Go ahead and get yourself a high storage flash drive, maybe 128 gig flash drive and whatnot to store all your research papers, Excel, PowerPoints, this, that, whatever. Just go ahead and do that. Get a decent dongle that will handle all of those transfer speeds and display out to an actual display, and you'll be golden. 128 gig flash drive, maybe a 256 gig SSD, maybe even a 500 gig SSD, along with a 256 gig M1 iPad Pro. That's a good combo. 500 plus 256, that's over 700 gigs worth of storage. You definitely don't need all that, but it's great to have, especially if you're doing video and photo editing. Speaking of a good dongle and a good monitor, accessories. What kind of accessories should you get? I can tell you right now, the number one accessory to get for the M1 iPad Pro is this guy right here, the Apple Pencil 2. Let me tell you something. You can get the Logitech Pencil. You can get any other third-party stylus from Amazon, wherever you get your stuff from. You can go get a secondary stylus. You don't have to spend $130 on this. But I promise you, this is $130 well spent. First party accessories go absolutely well with first party devices. And let me tell you something. This draws the smoothest in my eyes. It draws the smoothest. It feels great in the hand. The little extra gesture features that are in the top here to undo or erase or any of that sort. Great to see it there. And personally, I just like the way it just, I don't know if you guys heard that, but I just love the way that it just snaps in place into the top of the iPad and just charges rapidly. Apple Pencil, definitely a must-have. Second must-have is a dongle. You definitely need a dongle on this to work with the Thunderbolt port that is on this device. And yes, Thunderbolt is there. It definitely makes things go faster in terms of read-write speeds. It definitely shoots out to a display faster if you get the right one. See, I went ahead and purchased this $20 no-name dongle when I had my 2018 iPad Pro. And at the time, everything was working just fine. But now, this doesn't work, specifically the HDMI. I thought the dongle had a problem. I thought the Thunderbolt port on the iPad had a problem. So I thought, you know what? Let's go to dongle route first. I had a second dongle, and I plugged that in. No dice. Took it to Apple, said, hey Apple, what's up? What's wrong with this? And they came back to tell me that you need specific dongles to make sure that this thing works the way it's supposed to. So what they essentially told me in plain English is that if your thing is not name brand like Satechi or Belkin or any of these high class brands that Apple approves, expect to see some features from your dongle not work. Had to buy a $70 Satechi dongle, plugged it into HDMI, bada bing, bada boom, things started coming up. So once you get the right dongle, next up, you probably want a monitor. Basic 1080p monitor, please. You don't have to get no 4K crazy bonanza. Just get a basic 1080p monitor that has good color representation and nice sharpness, etc. And you will be golden. Having a monitor to work with this thing is awesome. It's just that awesome. Plug it in and have everything in full screen in front of you. Now, obviously, everything is shrunken down to a 4:3 aspect ratio. But nonetheless, it's still a bigger screen. Everything is a lot bigger, wider, It's not going to hurt your eyes that much. Now this next thing, it's definitely up to you. You can go the traditional separate keyboard with a little stand for the iPad and a separate mouse, and you'll be just fine. Or you can go the Magic Keyboard route, and that is the most expensive route that you could possibly go. But personally for me, I really like it. The trackpad tracking is awesome. The key travel in the keyboard is awesome. The backlight is awesome. And just having that extra Type-C port on this keyboard is a blessing because it just frees up the main port on the iPad and I get to use it for what I need to use it for. Let's quickly touch on note-taking. It's an absolute breeze on the iPad Pro to take notes. This is really where the Apple Pencil shines. And the note-taking app I use on a work week basis, since I am no longer in college, I graduated, is GoodNotes 5. To me, the UI is straightforward and to the point. Draw in your shapes when needed, add as many pages you'd like to a book, choose from the many different paper templates, fonts, pencil colors, etc., and just get to work. The number one feature also when it comes to note-taking for me, when it comes to this iPad at least, would be the camera. So let me explain. Everyone has gone through at least one semester of college with that professor. You know who that is. The one who speaks faster than the speed of light and he or she writes down on the whiteboard so fast and then erases everything and then looks at you and asks, "So did you get everything?" And you and I both know we didn't get everything. Well, this is where the camera comes in, especially with the LiDAR sensor. Tap to focus. LiDAR is going to focus up super quick. Take your picture, crop it, put it into GoodNotes, and write any other secondary notes that you need to right underneath it. It is a breeze. Trust me on that. I used to do that with my Surface Book Gen 1 when I had it back in college when it was 2016, 17, roughly around there. And that worked, but I wish I had this because it would have made it even better. So let's wrap this up. My advice, especially since the new MacBook Pros came out, is to choose wisely because this is still just a tablet at the end of the day. And there may come a time where a computer is needed more than a tablet. However, if you like a touch interface, use of a stylus, the ability to take pictures of your notes and add them accordingly, and most of all, portability, then the iPad Pro 12.9-inch model is your pick. The functionality you get from this tablet is unmatched by any of its competitors in the tablet market. It even destroys any and all Chromebooks and entry-level to even some mid-grade Windows laptops. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back. This channel is on its way to about 1,300 subscribers now. It's all thanks to you guys. I love you guys for that. Thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for anything better. Let's keep growing this community. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and look forward to seeing you guys at the next video I make. I'll catch you in the next one.